The Global African Diaspora Symposium, tagged GADS Abuja 2023, has remained refreshingly indelible in the minds of those who attended physically and virtually. The Diaspora program, which has been showcasing the event, especially for those who missed being in Nigeria, will have the opportunity to watch part 3 of the symposium, which is the panel discussions. Stick around for details. And on the Diaspora Health segment, we have the Association of Nigerian Physicians in the Americas, ANPA, with health tips. And of course, we did not forget our Diaspora and of the moment. Please stay with your favorite program, The Diaspora, and I am your host, Koinsola Adetumbi. Welcome back. Now let's begin with the panel discussions with the topic, Diaspora Home Return, Issues for African States. Melvin Foote, founder and president, Constituency for Africa, CFA, Washington, D.C., United States of America, will be the lead discussant, amongst others. Take a listen.
I'm proud that Nigeria has stepped up to the plate to help lead this effort. We need Nigeria engagement. The African diaspora love Africa. We don't know where we come from in Africa, but we love everybody from Cape Town to Cairo, You can't tell me that you're from a tribe or ethnic group, or you're from a European colonized border. That doesn't mean anything to me. We love Africans wherever they're at. We love them in Jamaica. We love them in Trinidad. We love them in America. So a big part of this is the diaspora is looking to engage with Africa. We don't know if Africa really is looking to engage with us. That's the question. How do we work with Africa, and how does Africa work with us? You got 1 billion people in Africa, but you also got 1 billion people in the diaspora, who are also African. So the real challenge is, how do we actually bring it all together? How do we actually hold hands? I think that this conference is an excellent start. This is where you go. I've already met all kinds of people here. I want to also acknowledge DTCA, the Director for Technical Cooperation in Africa, who are my old friends. I ran into some of my old friends from DTCA. Wonderful organization. And they've been doing this stuff quietly for years, So I see this as only the beginning. I think that the challenge for the diaspora in Africa is going to be at least 100 years, 200 years from now. We got to engage the next generation in this process. We got to engage the young people in the process. Gender balance, you got to have 50-50 women. 50-50, not 60-40, not 70-30. It needs to be 50-50 women, because half the people on the continent and in Africa are women. So I fully would embrace that.
This panel will highlight the positive impact of diaspora on sustainable development. It will take into account initiatives underway in the OACPS regions to facilitate the engagement and strengthen the contributions of the diaspora. This panel will also propose to assess the capacity building needs for states and diaspora stakeholders in order to eventually develop concrete initiatives to be implemented in partnerships. It will be able to propose elements that will be used to set up an effective advocacy action.
Diaspora engagement, certainly in the African context, in terms of our various approaches, will and have to benefit from all of us. In Jamaica, we say all of government approach. In this instance, we're talking about all of world approach, including, ladies and gentlemen, I might add, our friends. So the friends of the diaspora, friends of Africa, must also be part of that conversation. Are you with me? Would you agree? Many of our various initiatives are driven, born, fed by our friends. They are not always in Africa, nor do they have to come to Africa. But I would posit that as long as their interests remain focused on Africa, focused on our achievements and developments, then we would have won something. Is that true? Our High Commissioner here, Esmond Reed, has been very helpful in guiding us as to how best Jamaica can position itself to benefit from and participate in the 6th region. And I would suggest that as eager as Jamaica is to do so, we'll benefit more if we have a known representative from the AU in the Caribbean. And I'm advocating that if there's not one, let us put one there, so that Jamaica and all the Caribbean territories can relate lockstep and work in sync and in harmony with the AU as part of the 6th region. Would you agree with that? If you would, let's help me to encourage the powers that be to ensure that that occurs. My minister and I discussed that, and I know I have his full support when I say we want a representative of the AU in the 6th region. I know there's one in Canada and North America. The Caribbean deserves one too.
The ministerial meeting at the Migration Dialogue for Southern Africa recommended the development of programs and innovative activities for the active engagement of the youth and the diaspora to make a meaningful contribution to the social and economic development of their home countries, as well as the SADC community. Now, this was never demonstrated more than during the COVID-19 pandemic, which started towards the end of 2019, when member states realized the role of the diaspora in providing humanitarian support to stranded migrants within and out of the region. These actions, however, also prompted and served as a point of departure into a policy-level dialogue about the role of the diaspora in development to reshape the migration discourse in the region. In the year 2020, the Southern African Migration Management Project conducted a regional study to examine the existing practices on diaspora engagement and productive use of remittances among SADC member states. The findings were interesting. The study found that while there is currently no regional diaspora policy framework or programs to ensure a comprehensive and coherent engagement of the diaspora in the SADC region, home countries in the region are making individualized efforts to engage the diaspora by setting up diaspora units like what Namibia is currently doing, very much still in the infancy stage, we're just starting out. Developing diaspora policies, which we are also busy with, organizing cultural conferences, instituting remittance-linked products, as well as providing dual citizenship and enhancing the voting rights of people in the diaspora.
The 2012 World Diaspora Summit Declaration recognized the need to build sustainable partnership between Africa and its diaspora through sustained dialogue and effective engagement. And so realized that for effective implementation of diaspora programs, many governments are building the capacity of their relevant diaspora-related institutions. And for Ghana, we established the Diaspora Unit in 2012, and this was upgraded to a fully fledged bureau in 2014. But then, when the current government came, to power, we decided to again downgrade it to a unit because then the president felt the need to engage directly with our diasporans, and so we established another office at the office of the president. So let's recall that 7 years after the declaration of the 2012 summit, On September 20, 2018, in Washington, D.C., the President of Ghana declared 2019 as the year of return to commemorate the 400th anniversary since the arrival of the first 20 African slaves in the Commonwealth state of Virginia. This was also in view of Ghana's unique position as the location for 75% of the slave dungeon built on the West Africa. He invited people of African descent whose ancestors were enslaved in the diaspora to come home to Ghana, saying, quote, "We open our arms even wider to welcome home our brothers and sisters in what will become a birthright journey home for the global African family." And so this actually was a kind of a vision following the declaration in 2020.
Several Pacific countries have significant diaspora abroad, and mainly in Australia and New Zealand, our two largest neighbor countries. Nevertheless, policies and institutional framework on diaspora engagements are lacking in majority of the Pacific countries. We are the new kids on the block when it comes to diaspora engagement. For instance, there was a study that was carried out 2 years ago that mapped out 12 countries in the region, and the report came out last year. None of the 12 countries have developed an official policy or strategy on diaspora engagement. In addition, out of the 12, only one country has set aside a unit that deals with diaspora issues. However, we have made some progress in the recent month on diaspora, and we are looking toward Africa. African countries are pioneers of the diaspora engagements, who have wealth of knowledge and experiences in that domain, and we would like to also learn from you, build up on the South-South cooperation framework, share the best practices. So Vanuatu, where I'm from, our government has made some push for greater diaspora engagement in recent years, notably by involving our country with labor mobility program in Australia and New Zealand. So with that, trying to collect some data, but also trying to facilitate and help cut down the cost of remittances. However, Vanuatu does not have a policy, an official policy on diaspora engagement. And like I said, our purpose this afternoon at this symposium is to learn, listen, get some experiences from countries who share their experiences and the best practices.
The question of migration and diaspora come to the forefront of the global and African agenda, especially with the proliferation of diaspora conferences, symposiums, diaspora-related institutions, and to some extent, impactful projects. This Global African Diaspora Symposium will be, in one way, the first in its kind from the organization of the African, Caribbean, and Pacific states perspective. But on the other hand, it's a perfect follow-up summit following the organization of the Africa Union-led three-phase diaspora consultation approach. Excellencies, distinguished guests, it's well known that the organization of the Africa Union has passed through a three-phased consultation approach to ensure the operationalization of the organization's diaspora initiative. The first phase was a series of regional consultation conferences to foster effective partnership between Africa and its diaspora. And the second one is bringing this issue to the attention of the head of states and the ministerial level. And the third phase was the Global African Diaspora Summit, which took place in Johannesburg to address the realization of a united and integrated Africa and its diaspora, based on a shared vision for sustainable development to address common challenges. However, compared with the practice of regions and countries with impactful approaches in harnessing the potential of their diaspora, until very recently, African governments, continental and regional institutions hadn't developed a coherent framework for engaging with and mobilizing the African diaspora. This represented the important gap in development strategies that such platforms should address.
And now let's take a short break with Boya Linko leading us.
Not so fast. Look, I'm tired. I want to check out of this country for greener pastures.
Just calm down for a moment. Please sit down. Do you have a job where you're going to?
No, but someone is arranging,
Listen, Alinko. Checking out of this country without proper planning means one thing. Unimaginable begin. You know, I've been in the diaspora, but legitimately doing great things at home and abroad. As I've been saying, without the proper footing abroad, the risk is not worth it. Listen, Alinko, it's better to be home than be trapped abroad, or even end up in prison.
If you must travel, travel legitimately. Now over to our health segment with Ampere Doctors giving us health tips.
I'm here today to talk a little bit about bleeding after menopause. This is a condition where a woman has her periods, her menstrual periods or cycle, after it has already stopped when it has been determined that she has gone through menopause. This is not a very common condition. However, when it does occur, it's important to understand that it's not normal. The commonest reason why women bleed after menopause is because the lining of the uterus, the uterine lining, is thin, and because of that atrophy, it sloughs, and then you have some bleeding that can range from mild spotting to heavy bleeding. However, what's more concerning when you bleed after menopause is the fact that there is a possibility this could be due to cancer of the uterus. Cancer of the uterus is having abnormal cells grow within the uterus, and they are difficult to control and often could result in untoward sequelae. There are risk factors that predispose you to cancer of the uterus, and this includes things like being over 50 years of age, being overweight, so maintaining a healthy weight is very important, being on some medications such as estrogen without being on progesterone at the time you're on the estrogen. Also, being on some medication that is used to treat other cancers. For instance, women who have been placed on tamoxifen who've had a history of breast cancer. These all increase the risk of uterine cancer, and so taking this into account helps to have a heightened sense of suspicion when a woman has these symptoms after the menopause. Uterine cancer is not a very common cancer. However, it's usually, if picked up early, could be cured. It starts off with possibly, if it happens prior to menopause, heavy bleeding or abnormal bleeding. After menopause could be a symptom of women starting to have the period again after the period has stopped. It's diagnosed by getting a sample from the uterus, and that sample is then sent and evaluated in a microscope under the pathology lab to take a look to identify cancer cells. Treatment could involve surgery, which involves removing the uterus and potentially the ovaries and other affected tissue, or chemotherapy agents, including radiation. The stages of uterine cancer determine how effective the treatment could be. For instance, stage 1, the cancer is limited within the uterus. Stage 2 could be affecting the cervix. Stage 3 could affect the vagina, and stage 4 is spread. It's important to understand and note the symptoms of uterine cancer so that it could be picked up early to have the best response to treatment and potential cure. It's important for women to understand that postmenopausal bleeding is not normal and should be taken seriously and involve evaluation with a healthcare professional. Thank you.
Our diaspora of the moment is Professor Dame Elizabeth Nneka Anyanwu. Professor Elizabeth was born in Birmingham, England, to an Irish mother and a Nigerian father. Her mother, Mary Marine Furlong, was in her second year studying classics at Newham College, Cambridge University. She is the daughter of the late Nigerian Lawrence Anyanwu of Onitsha, first permanent secretary in the Nigeria's Ministry of Foreign Affairs from the year 1960 to 1963, and also Nigeria's first ambassador to Italy and the Vatican from the year 1964 to 1967. Her father, Lawrence, was studying law at Cambridge University. Professor Dame is an emeritus professor of nursing at the University of West London. In 1979, she set up the first ever UK sickle cell thalassemia nurse counseling service based in Brent. She then became a senior lecturer in community genetic counseling at the University College London's Institute of Child Health. Prior to retirement in 2007, she was Dean of the School of Adult Nursing Studies and Professor of Nursing at the University of West London, UWL, before establishing the Mary Seacole Centre for Nursing Practice, also at UWL. Elizabeth was Vice Chairperson of the successful Mary Seacole Memorial Statue Appeal and is now a life patron of the Mary Seacole Trust. In 2016, she published her memoirs, Mixed Blessings from a Cambridge Union. Elizabeth became a dame in 2017 in the Queen's New Year's Honours and was awarded a fellowship of the Queen's Nursing Institute, FQNI, in October 2017 and became a vice president of the QNI in 2021. In 2023, she was closely involved in the coronation of Charles III and his wife, Camilla, as King and Queen of the United Kingdom and the other Commonwealth realms. This event took place on the 6th of May 2023 at Westminster Abbey. Congratulations, Professor. We celebrate you as our diaspora of the moment.
That does it for today's episode of The Diaspora. Stick with us same time next week for the concluding part of the Global African Diaspora Symposium. And I remain your host, Koinsola Adetumbi. Bye for now.